right, everyone, welcome to Season 3 of the Dropping Klefboms NHL Fantasy League. I'm joined here with the Commissioner, Mr. Torrey Duckworth. We're going to go over the pool and some other fantasy options. We're coming up with a new game this year. I don't know, what do you want? Do you have a name for the game yet?
Not necessarily, nothing yet. And I realize now, and I apologize that it's dark here. I need to work on getting one of those lights to make things a little bit brighter on my end. But yeah, the game that we're going to go with is we're going to flip-flop between looking at 55% owned players and less and 33% owned players and less. That way, on average, it's every other pool or one of every three pools. These guys are available. So that way, for people that are looking in their own leagues for players that might on their way up or might be just guys you might want to look at over the next 7 days, we'll kind of have our input on that. So
yeah, I think
three. Go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say I think the plan is to try to do this show on Sundays so that it's out for the week. We're doing it Monday this week, whatever. But it's gonna be a lot of us talking about our own pool. We're in year 3 of our keeper league now, so it's getting pretty intense. A lot of fun going on there. So it's gonna be cycling around there. But of course, if people have questions, toss them in the comments. I read them every morning, answer them. I'll run them by Torrey. He can jump in there too. And whatnot. Maybe eventually this will be a live show and people will show up. So
Yeah, that would be sick.
yeah. So
Let's jump into the little game we have here. So we're going with 3 forwards, 1 D, and a goalie. And if we want, there's a spot for an honorable mention. And this week I took the it's funny because originally I was going to say shorter end of the stick, but it depends how you look at it because I'm taking the 33% and under owned players, which actually gives me a large pool to pick from, where you have players from 34% to 55%.
Which for my sake of it, a lot of these guys, like if we look at them next week, they probably wouldn't qualify. That's part of the game we think too, is that these guys are turning up. They're not going to be in the 55. Like for instance, my first guy, Victor Arvidsson, he's 54% right now owned. By the time we look tomorrow, LA is playing tomorrow. He could be 56, 57, 58. He could be out of that. So it's just that's part of it. And with yours, you're trying to see guys that are soon going to be in the topper tier.
But there's also going to be guys that drop down as well, whether it be poor performance, whether it be sent down because maybe they're a younger player, whether it be due to injury. So there's going to be interesting times where maybe part of the practice is getting the points, but maybe that particular week it's talking about, okay, this is the time to buy low on this guy. Like this guy has dropped this far, like this is the bottom of the yo-yo kind of thing.
Yep, that's a good point too. Yeah, so I'm doing the pretty much 50% owned guys, and you're 33% or less. I think we're a little asterisk on the goalie because that's pretty much hard to find someone 33% or less that can be kind of owned as a number 1, possibly number 2 goalie. It's kind of hard.
There's going to be sometimes options where there's guys replacing injury guys, or maybe there's a guy that goes into COVID protocol or something, and all of a sudden the number 2 becomes a stud for the week. That's probably what you're going to see as a trend.
Yeah.
But if there isn't options, then we're kind of going to just let the lower team take second dibs at the goalie underneath 55%, just to try and help a little bit more people around. But let's start off with me, I guess, because actually no, let's start off with you because you have the higher percentage guys, so the closer to being rostered guys.
Yep. So for me, I got Victor Arvidsson, 54%. I like him. I've always kind of found him very rosterable around this. He's one of those fringe guys, even like seasons before in Nashville. But I do like his position that he's been put in on LA, and LA is looking like they've been firing since he joined already. He's number 1. He's on the line with Kopitar. He's on the number 1 power play. He's getting the shots. He's capable of getting the hits. We haven't seen it yet this season, but he is capable of getting you a couple of hits here and there. The only risk, of course, with Arvidsson always is injury. So on this week they have 3 games. I think he's rosterable. Should be rostered on most teams at least right now. Thinking 54% is pretty low for him.
I just wanted to jump in there actually quickly before I forget to say that another trend that we're going to see here is we might see lower percentage roster guys, specifically maybe on the end of the team taking the 33% because of how many games are in a week. because sometimes you might have a team, let's say, that has 4 games that week,
Yep.
and he's maybe a 12 or 18% owned guy, and you'd rather take 4 games versus maybe 2 games at a higher percent owned guy. So
Yep.
that's going to come into practice, and I know I looked at that. I'm pretty sure you
I
at least
had one
brought that
guy.
up,
He
right?
he was my 4th forward. I'll give him honorable mention
Okay.
at the end there.
Perfect.
Yeah. So also too, we're at the beginning of the season. So as injuries start to happen, some of these fringe guys, their ownership will obviously go up as well. So we'll keep that in mind as well. So my second guy I have on radar, which I was surprised to see him 50% owned, was Travis Connectny. Number 1 forward on Philadelphia, lined up with Giroux. Capable of putting up 30 goals in a season very easily, getting hits, getting shots already in his first 2 games this season. Number 1 power play. Again, it's kind of the same trend. Both these guys on pretty good scoring first lines and pretty good scoring power plays. Found it pretty shocking to see them in the 50% area. So he's kind of in the same category as Arvidsson. Younger guy. I think has more upside than Arvidsson, to be honest. So I would probably put him above Arvidsson as a target. I guess the only thing here is we talk about it before as well when we talk about Philly every year, is that their scoring does tend to get spread out sometimes. So that would be my only downside to him. So maybe Arvidsson's a little bit higher because Kopitar's line tends to just dominate.
The other thing as well that I should say is that we're going to be using the projected rank based off our league settings.
Yeah.
Our league settings doesn't have blocks for defensemen. It's a more offensive generated league, so it's more about points, assists, power play points, game-winning goals, shots on goal.
Yeah.
We do have hits, so that's there for sometimes if you want to go for more physicality. But I know we're going to touch on more general pool stuff as well. Sometimes maybe those that have the peripherals, the penalty minutes, the blocks.
Exactly.
Maybe plus minus if your league's still doing that. But yeah.
Yep. So then my third guy I got up here is Kirby Doc. I thought it was an interesting selection. He's 36% owned right now, so just kind of on the fringe of maybe being in your category. But he's on the top line on Chicago, matched up with Patrick Kane when they're playing 5-on-5. Someone to take a look at if you're in one of those deeper leagues. I kind of like him. He's off to a pretty good start. He puts up 19 minutes a game so far this season. It's only 2 games, small sample size, of course, but I don't know. I'm not too confident that Jonathan Taves is going to get right back to that role of eating up the minutes. This guy might take the role as the number 1 center in Chicago, so I do like him if you're looking for some depth in center. Kirby Doc as my third forward.
In real life, Chicago's depth at center is actually kind of sneaky good, at least moving forward. They've got a bunch of guys that have played center in the past that are now playing the wing. But in terms of using Doc, who is known as a 2-way, physical, kind of gritty guy who can also chip in offensively, almost like a Kessler type guy. Not as Kessler as Kessler was, but that kind of build. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. I guess I'll do the rest of mine too, right? So for me, this was a defensive guy, and it kind of might not be super strong in certain leagues, as you touched on with blocks and stuff, but Yandel, 54% owned right now. He's got the top spot in Philadelphia. Power play, he's been a quarterback on power play for Florida for many years. He's constantly putting up power play assists, points. So if you're looking for points, power play assists, that kind of thing. And so far, he's even got some shots. He's putting up more shots than he has in the past. Again, 2-game sample size. We're still early in the season, but that's something to keep an eye on. If that continues to put up a couple shots a game, that adds to his value even more, in my opinion, even throwing in some hits, which, again, is not typical of Yandel in the past, but Broad Street bullies, maybe they're bringing out a new side of Yandel. We'll see.
Irish hockey.
Yeah.
The thing with him as well is he's the Iron Man, right? Leading Iron Man. He's played so long. You know he's going to be in the lineup.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not playing great every game, but he's going to be in the lineup, and you're going to put him on the power play. And like you said, he puts up, so it's a good pick.
Yep. And for goalie, there's a couple to choose from, but I went with John Gibson. He's 52% owned across the league. He's starting today, so by the time you see this video, he probably already got the start. But he's guaranteed at least 2 starts this week. He has a shot at 3. Whether he gets the third is not. I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Ducks this year. as being a team that can put up decent fantasy numbers. Maybe not make playoffs, maybe not do that, but for sneaky fantasy guys to build a depth on a fantasy team, I think there's some quality Ducks out there, and I think Gibson, we all know what he's capable of when he's top of his game. And I think he's definitely a late round sleeper goalie that could bring you some depth in the net. If you're looking for a second, maybe a third goalie in your roster, he's definitely one you want to look at.
The other benefit with him is he plays in Anaheim, so he gets to the late games. So with him, there's some weak teams in his division, so divisional matchups or even some other matchups are good for him. But if they're playing some Colorados or maybe some of the other elite teams, he's maybe a guy you want to fade off of. So if he is your number 2 guy and he does play at night, and maybe you had a good performance earlier that night, maybe you don't always dress him, but I do think he should be at least on somebody's bench in most, if not every
and we'll talk about this. There's not a whole lot of you could count 10 goalies in the league that are gonna cater the majority of their starts, and he's one of them. So there's that too as well.
60 plus games.
Yeah, health obviously mattering.
It's health pending.
All right, let's look at the 33% and less from you.
All right, so my guys, they don't deserve probably a whole ton of attention, but I do think that they deserve a little bit of attention. The first one would be Timo Meyer. He's actually a personal favorite of mine. I've had him on my team all over the place, and the funny thing is I've had him all over my rosters, and I still struggle spelling his name. I always mistype it. I'm like, that looks wrong. It looks wrong until eventually I'm like, okay, that's it. It takes me a few tries every time I try to type it. But yeah, with the Sharks, Evander Kane news just came down. He's out 21 games, so that's obviously going to help him be more productive. I still believe San Jose may still send their young guys down after the 9-game mark, just to kind of push the entry-level contract down and let their kind of other first-layer guys develop, the Zegras and the Drysdales and whatnot. But we'll see. I mean, they also don't want to piss off guys like Gibson, too. Right, so they might go for it, but yeah, Timo Meyer, I'm excited to watch. We'll see. He brings a lot of shots and hits.
He had a very good first game of the season with 8 shots himself. So if he can even come close to that every once in a while, it's going to be monster.
He should probably average 4.5, maybe 5 shots a game, which is monster in most leagues. That's like Larkin level, Olofsson level. And then I get to Ellie Tolvanen of Nashville is my second guy. He is a former top prospect who a lot of people are overlooking as kind of a guy that may have disappeared. But now that Arvidsson's gone and there's some opportunity for some of their younger guys, he's kind of showing up. He's had a couple of games of really high shots. I think it was 6 and 6 or 6 and 8. I'm not sure if that will continue. But part of this practice, I looked at the teams that played 4 games this week, and Nashville is one of them. So I figured.
Yeah, no, he definitely was a big part of them down the stretch last year, fantasy-wise. He was definitely worth rostering late in the season last year. So it's definitely when he's low on right now, might be someone to take a sneaky chance on.
Exactly, especially if there happens to be an injury or if they eventually when they eventually trade Forsberg, he could be a guy towards the end of the season specifically who should be owned in a lot more leagues. The third guy I took is from the Islanders, another team that plays 4 games this week. Now, the Islanders aren't very offensively inclined, but that being said, when they do score, I'm sure Palmieri is going to be involved in a lot of them, or at least he's going to be involved in the net. And occasionally he will drop the gloves, or at least punch back and take some pims. So if you have a penalty minutes league and hits and shots, he's another one of those guys that kind of contributes across the board with the occasional boom game. So with 4 opportunities, there might be a game where he gets 2 goals and an assist, and he chips in with another assist or 2 that week or this week.
Yeah, that's a good point on the 4 games. That's who my honorable mention was, also from the Islanders, with Pajot having 4 games. He was somewhere in the 40s for ownership. So same kind of premise. 4 games. Having 4 games of these guys is probably better than the majority of the other players in that section.
And I figured it out to be, if you calculate it all out long way, it's about 2.66 games per week. So, I mean, basically every 3 weeks you have 3 games, or 4 games. And then most other weeks you have 2 or 3.
Yep.
So, I mean, if you can take you take advantage of making ads on these guys week to week basis and taking advantage of that, you're probably going to come out on the good end more times than not. But then now I go to my defenseman, and this is a personal favorite of mine and a guy who I actually have on my draft list to start the season. I do think it's only a matter of time till he starts to show what he can do, and he does become too high rostered for a team on the lower end to pick, and that's Jamie Drysdale of the Anaheim Ducks. I do think that he has the capability to be in the same conversation as Quinn Hughes from the Canucks. I don't want to say Makar. I'd probably say Byram instead, or even a Girard from Colorado, kind of that next tier offensive guy, or the new age Erik Karlsson type guy. The problem with those guys is they're mostly offensive and they're not really shooters. So if you're in a league that has a lot of peripherals, might not be the guy for you, especially when they have other defensemen available on Anaheim, like Josh Manson or other guys who do provide better peripherals. But if you're just going for offense and power play, he's a guy that I would be watching to, even in dynasty leagues moving forward.
Yep. No, definitely. I would, yeah. In Dynasty League, he'd probably be, well, depending on how deep you are, he's probably going to be rostered at a lot of places, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we go to goalie, and again, this is the asterisk one where there wasn't really a lot to pick from or choose from. One guy that I did like was Braden Holtby, but they only played 2 games this week, so it's hard, right? Because you'd figure that he'd get one of those 2 if they want to keep their other goalie in tune.
Yeah.
So why would you pick a goalie with 1 start?
Especially because he had somewhat of an injury where he left the game.
It was dehydration. It came out that he was dehydrated.
Yeah,
so
but either way, they might take him a little bit easy this week. They might go split game, so it is a risk.
Might as well. It's early, right? Yeah. So there's no point pushing it. So, and you also want to make sure you know what you have in Khudobin, because you might want to trade him if you're Dallas, because you know Ottinger is in the minors, and Ottinger just killed it. I think I read that he had 44 or 45 saves last night in the AHL.
Damn, man.
So I mean, he's clearly too good for the AHL.
Yeah,
it's only a matter of time. Plus Ben Bishop's coming back, so I wouldn't be surprised if Khudobin's the first goalie move this year in real life. But we'll see where that goes. But the actual goalie I picked was Alex Nadelkovic from Detroit. And I picked him because Detroit has 4 games, only 1 on a back-to-back. Got to think between him and Grice that he's going to get 3 of them. Now I know he didn't have a great showing against Tampa, but that's your season opener. It's Tampa. It's goalie on a new team, questionable and young defense.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to hold it too much against him.
No, so we'll see. I don't know if he's going to get many wins, but he should probably get a lot of saves and responsible or respectable statistics to go around it.
Yeah, and absolute worst case scenario, he's getting 2 games likely. So
yeah. And the last one I just wanted to mention is honorable mention that I have is Rasmus Anderson from from Calgary Flames. I don't know if anyone was watching the game, but they were clearly out to send a message to the Oilers. That you're not going to touch our goalie.
Yep.
And they've got a lot of big, mean, tough defensemen that will punch you in the face and drop the gloves and fight you. And they're in a Sutter system. I think that they're going to set a tone early. And I think that Rasmus Anderson, now that Giordano's gone, there's no one else to take time from him on the power play. And like I said, they have a big bunch of ogre defensemen around him, other than maybe Hannafin, he's kind of a hybrid in a sense. So, like, who else are you going to put on the power play other than a forward at that point? So, I know he had a 3-assist game in the last game of the preseason. Like that power play in Calgary, it should be top 15 anyways. Maybe not top 7.
And Calgary's going a little bit under the radar right now because they've only played 1 game. So, not a lot of people are seeing it. It's a good call, for sure.
He's a guy I don't know. He was when I picked him up in my 1 league, and he was 8% owned before their opening game when I picked him up, which was the morning of the game. He is now, I think it said 16% or 18% owned, and it went up 3% in this evening. So, I expect him to be in the high 20s, if not low 30s, by this time next week, if not higher than that. I think he's a boom guy. Yeah,
that's a good call. Definitely, if you're power play 1, you're not going to stay below 30 for long.
And I mean, he took a 2-minute minor and he got $5,000 fine in the first game because he threw a headbutt against one of the players. He's one of those guys. I think he had 4 hits and 4 shots, power play assist. He's just one of those guys. He doesn't really excel at anything, but he kind of just chips in, and some nights he gets friggin' nasty and takes
Yeah.
penalty minutes, which if you're in a league with that, it's helpful when you know you have guys that occasionally lose their cool.
So, yeah. All right, so that's our waiver wire game. We're gonna see how it goes. Realistically, I should win because I should have the better players, but you never know. It'll be fun. Yeah,
exactly.
for sure. All right, so let's switch over to Keeper League Fantasy Klefboms.
Year 3.
Pardon? Year three. Yeah, year 3. So week 1 in the books.
First, let's start with the free agent bidding dollars, the offers. We have 2 of them so far. The first one was at the beginning of the season, and it was Nicholas Backstrom. The winning bidder was Nick for $9. Second place was you, actually, at $6, and Dylan bid $0, so just was going to add him.
Yep.
What's your take, I guess, because you had a bid in there?
My bid was I just wanted to get an IR guy. Just someone that I could add IR and I knew he was going to be out for a couple of weeks before he came back. He slotted in. He's normally pretty good, rosterable at the very least. Just getting him in on the IR, just an extra asset to have. He was by far the best asset in the pool, according to Yahoo. I think he was preseason ranked 46 or something. So he was high. I didn't want to go all out because he was a center, and I was pretty heavy on center, so I didn't go too crazy. I was shocked that I didn't win it, to be honest. I thought $10 seems steep to me.
It seemed really steep, and I was surprised that it was Nick that bid that much because he's not really a Nick type player because he's really much assists, power play assists, points, like that's pretty much all he is. He doesn't shoot, he doesn't hit.
He fits more into the team I've been trying to build than what Nick. Well, I didn't think I'd have much competition, to be honest, but I thought 6 would get it done. I thought someone was going to bid. I thought 5 maybe.
But I would imagine, based on what Nick has on his team, that he'll end up back on waivers in relatively short fashion.
Yeah, I hear he's trying to deal him today in the group. So.
Oh, really? I'm out of that group, so I have no idea.
Yeah, you don't know what's going on with the news. We're almost awarded Ben the trophy. We said if he can go 3-0 out of the gate, we'll give him the trophy. So. He's 1/3 of the way to his career total wins after 2 seasons.
Man on a mission.
Yeah, so that was the story. Backstrom, I'm glad I didn't win, to be honest. I feel like I might have regret it now. I ended up picking up Yanni Gord instead again. Whatever.
Yeah, he should be fine.
He's like, chances are by the time he comes back, I'll end up dropping him. Like, who the hell knows?
Yeah. It's a bit surprising, but you know what else is surprising is this next one.
Yes.
I had an offer and Steve had an offer for Dylan Larkin, and Steve was the winning offer at 40 buckaroos.
$40 out of 100. We only start with 100.
And that's for the entire season, including post playoffs and into the off season, into a season where there's going to be desperation, and into a recycle season where people are going to be also trying to go for late value guys because everyone's going to want to keep their early picks.
Yeah, and a lot of keepers expiring, so they're going to end up on waivers too at points, and it's interesting, but it's very, very much a Steve move. It isn't I don't think that's the lowest he's bid before. If I recall, how much did he bid on Bo Horvat last year? It was 60 or something.
Something like that.
It was something ridiculous, and it was the same kind of scenario. Just out of nowhere, he dropped his wad.
And it was funny because, I mean, he is a guy that should be drafted. He is a guy that should be owned. And I bid $9 because I was just like, hey, he's worth it, but he's not worth double digits. Yeah. And it's funny because when I was talking to Steve the next morning, he's like, damn it, I had a bid for $10. So, like, he had the winning bid, and then he quadrupled it.
Was there anything that made him up it? Did he have any sense that other people were wanting it?
I didn't really dig further, so I don't really know.
Okay. That's why,
we were laughing about it. That was pretty much it.
Yeah. All right, we do have one more, actually. You said there was only 2, but there is one more. Today, Ben adds Ryan Reeves for $5.
Okay, that wasn't a waiver bid though. That was just or that wasn't a.
Yeah, it was five. He spent $5.
Sorry, not. You're right. It's a waiver ad, but it's not
Not a
an
bid.
auction.
Not a
It's not
bidding
a
war.
bid. Yeah, there's nobody that lost the bid.
He just bought him.
Did it.
Okay, we'll call it
Which is
that.
funny because we were talking about it, and he was asking about Reeves and Gudis because obviously they're guys that fill specific roles,
Yep.
and they're both guys that do really good at it. They're both guys that have different positions. So really, it depends on what you need. I like both of them. I'm the type of guy that rosters a guy like that, specifically later when I'm going to use my odds for offense because I'm going to use guys that play back to back or guys that have 4 games in a week or something
Yeah.
like that. And those type of guys, once they're rostered, you can't find them.
Yeah.
So
The
if
only
nobody rosters them, then great.
the
But if
only
somebody drafts them,
downside
then they're gone.
to Reeves, he's such a unicorn, like unique. You kind of have to play it right, and I don't see Ben being able to play it right. So no offense to him.
You know, what I said to him is that for his team,
It takes a unique way to play it to use him
well,
in our pool
yeah.
specifically, because our pool is very
At the same
shallow.
at the same time, if you don't need hits and you need to sit one guy, you know who you're sitting. It's an easy sit, so you never
Yeah,
really end up sitting points on your bench because you always know who to sit.
it's a good
But
point.
at the
Yeah,
same time, I might have preferred that. And I said this to him. I was like, if I were you, I might want Gudis just because he's a defenseman. You
I
have
would
so many
have.
good forwards
Yeah,
that you don't have to worry about it. But and we'll see. I mean, they're both could be back on waivers. Like, and what I said to him is exactly what I just said. Is that if you knew that he would stay on waivers, stay on free agency until you needed them and you could grab them, there's no point rostering them.
that's true. But you don't know. That's true.
You don't know, and all of a sudden you're sitting there, and they play a Friday Sunday, and you're down or you're up by 6 7 hits.
And your
The other guy
opponent gets
grabs
them.
them,
Yeah,
right? Now it hurts you. So like that's why I like to own them because at least you know where they are, and you know that they won't hurt you, other than the fact that they're burning a spot on your team.
yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, we'll see where that goes. We'll see who ends up in the end of the season with the most hits because really that's where I was going is I want Gudis or do I want Reeves? I was like, hey, Reeves is back in New York with his former coach who loves him and plays him, and Gudis is Gudis. I was just like,
Who gets more
Gudis.
points though? I think Gudis gets more points.
That's also because Ekblad didn't play all last year, so you can't really count any of his
Yeah, but
points.
there's no Yandel this year.
Yes.
Just I don't know.
Yes.
That's why I'm asking. Who gets more points? I'll take Gudis. You can have Reeves.
Yeah, and if you're going for points, then yeah. But if I'm asking you who gets more pims or hits,
Yeah,
take.
yeah, it's Reeves. Yeah.
And then a whole new balance came into my equation when I was considering it, and I was like, ooh, Tanev. Because I know Tanev is always there in hits. He's always played in the lower end of the lineup, so he's always not had the opportunity to get as many shots
Yeah.
as possible. But now he's playing in Seattle, and he's already a fan favorite. He's already playing on the power play. His haircut's already a meme thing, like a whole thing there.
Yeah.
Like, I think he's going to maybe be a surprise in terms of offense. He might get 45 points and be top 5 in hits, which
Would be
would
monster.
leave
Yeah.
you with a top 120 player.
In our pool, even higher when you get that.
Higher than that,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, I was like, you know what? I'm going with that. So that was my decision. So in terms of the 3, I think I won. But those are 3 guys that if you need hits
Yeah.
and you're running the end of the week, you should put them on your team for sure.
Definitely. All right. Other transaction I guess we wanted to touch on was the one trade that happened last week, right?
Oh,
Right. It's not very interesting. Well, it's a little interesting in the what's the word? In like what happened because of the trade, I guess.
what do you mean?
I'm trying to the semantics
Yeah, like,
of the trade. So the trade ended up being Bernier and a 13th for Gustafsson and a 14th. Dylan trading off Gustafsson, who he picked up that day, and also picked up Hudobin. This happened all on Sunday when there was one game and only 2 goalies playing. He picked up both goalies, not needing a goalie. I guess he wanted to trade them, and he traded this one off for 1 round. Long story short, I think I got it right there.
yeah, pretty much. I think. Well, I mean, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but I was chatting with him and I kind of just said to him, "Oh, you're getting both goalies, eh?" And anyone that doesn't know, him and I both have a newborn pretty much within the first few months of their life. So you never know when they're going to be up.
Yeah.
So Dylan's like, I was up. The kid didn't want to sleep, and I was looking at it, and I was like, there's only one game. I might be able to get something for this. And he already. I shouldn't go further. But yeah, so.
So it just happened. It happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be interesting because of that there's some interesting forwards that went to the waiver wire that are going to be coming up in these next couple days. I think 3 specifically. Should we name them? I don't know.
Doesn't really matter at this point.
At this point, but yeah. So we got Hughes is gonna Jack Hughes. We got Timo Meyer, and we got Zach Hyman, who all went to waiver wire. Who I expect probably all these guys to get bids on.
I would hope that all of them get at least $1. They're all worth
at least $1.
And
yeah.
to me, $0 bid isn't proper bid. You should always be bidding $1 unless you have top waiver priority.
Yep.
Because if anyone else puts in a claim,
or if say you're number 3 and you see the top 2 guys, like you look at the top 2 guys and there's no way they're gonna put a bid, then that makes
and that makes sense because you'll get them. But like for me. Unless I'm just like, if it's meant to be, it will be, and I just put $0 in. That's the only time I put $0 in. If I actually like want a guy, I pretty much always put at least $1.
I only put $0 in if I just want to add them, but I'm going to sleep or something, and I don't want someone to pick them up when they wake up in the morning.
Yeah,
that's essentially it. Otherwise, I'm putting in $1 or $2. Usually, 4 is kind of my one, just to make sure no one sneaks in there with a $2 or $3 bid.
$1 to like $5 is like. I'd kind of like him, but like whatever. He's just a guy.
Yeah.
Once you get, I would have a hard time bidding more than single digits on anyone. Like that's kind of my rule. Like.
Yeah, until we get later and things hit the fan.
Exactly. Yeah. You want something, and like most of these guys that will end up being used on waivers or picked up on waivers with these bids will probably not end up staying on teams very long. I knew Steve is a Detroit fan, and so I thought maybe Larkin, I know he was taken late in the draft, I thought maybe he considered him as a keeper, and maybe he does. If Detroit puts up the offense they could this year, which is much better than last year, he could put up 60, 70 points and be a solid keeper, especially with the shots, right? So
very much potential, yeah.
We'll see with that. But, let's, the trade kind of...
it got things rolling.
It did, but in a sense, it kind of screwed me. But I don't want to say screwed me because I already looked and I already kind of saw that I was losing. I don't remember exactly what it was off the top of my head. I want to say it was 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points, 3 power play points, game-winning goal, 6 shots, and 9 hits or something.
Yeah.
And he had 3 skaters to my none. Plus goalies, he had 29 saves. If he had any of those categories, he beat me. Unless I wanted to use all my ads and drop guys I didn't want to drop, which I wasn't going to do.
Yeah.
I was just like, again, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And then he traded for the save, so he clearly wanted the win. So there you go. There's the win.
Yeah.
Purchased the win, basically, but whatever.
Yeah.
Okay with it.
Well, there's lots of more games to come. 22 more games down the stretch, so can't buy them all.
20 weeks.
20 weeks. All right.
So
can't buy them all.
19 more, but lots more.
Yeah.
Let's get into, I guess, last week's matchups.
Yeah, let's pull that up. We'll just look how last week ended.
The thing I want to mention quick is the amount of moves. There's not a single team that has not used a roster move yet. Goalie has used more. I think you told me this. He's used more this year than the last 2 years combined.
Definitely more this year than last year already.
Yeah, surprisingly, you are the least ads used. Not surprisingly, the fact it's you, but the fact that you have used 3. You're the only team that's used 3 or less.
Which is surprising because we've done the math and you can only really use 4 a week because we only have 100 for the season. You can only really use 4 a week if you're going to use max in the playoffs. So right now, most people are on trajectory to be in trouble.
And, I mean, you got a team like Nick who he's got injuries coming back and he's going to be a bit loaded at the end. Plus, he'll probably buy or try to trade 2, a bit lower guys for a bit higher guy. And he's not going to really need the ads at a certain point.
Yeah.
So he can use them early. So he's kind of the one asterisk to that. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
Do you want to give a quick recap of what happened to you last week? How your team's doing? How you feel about your team?
Yeah, we came out with a big win, 6-3 over Steve. It was shocking because I came into the week expecting to lose, to be honest. But my goalies came to play, very much so. 3 goalies, they got the wins. I had to sit Freddie Anderson, both games, which would have been 2 wins. So I guessed wrong. Out of the 2 times I had to guess, I guessed wrong once. So I could have had one more win if I dressed him over Shesterkin the one night. But not that it matters. But long story short, Kopitar carried the load for my team. Putting up a monster week with 7 points in 2 games, I think it was. 10 shots. The guy was a beast. I was missing McKinnon, so that's part of why I thought I was going to lose. And I just thought going against Kemper and Leonard, I was in trouble in net, but my goalies came through and got it done. So pretty much very happy with how it went. I didn't have to use... I used one ad for the week. And that was Connor Garland, just to add, because he had back-to-back Friday, Saturday. That's all I did. That's pretty much smooth win for me. Very happy with how it went. Not too much else to say on that, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think Steve's in trouble though with he got a lot of injuries that week. So, and he has 4 goalies right now. So I don't know. He went and added goalies, thinking that was his road to victory. I didn't think it was. I think if he spent those ads instead on forwards, it would have bolded better. But I don't think it made a difference.
Not to mention, because now he needs to use ads to come back to offense, because he's got to probably drop 2 goalies, or at least one. See, I mean, I guess we'll go into my team, my matchup. To be honest, I kind of punted the week. There was a couple things. I knew I had some injuries. I knew I had some suspensions, stuff like that. Some bad weeks in terms of games played. I started the first day of the season off with a terrible game from Vasilevsky, which blew my save percentage and goals against for the week, basically. Then he played Detroit and gave up 6, which basically cemented my terrible stats for the week. And that's basically going to be my downfall, is that I have goalies who all have decent weeks versus a team who has 2 goalies have decent weeks. Chances are my save percentage and goals against will be slightly more ballooned than theirs, just because of amount. There's chance of 1 extra goal going in a shorter game, or less shots on goal game or something. So that's why I'm a little bit afraid of Jesse this week, just because if he puts up a couple good goalie games and then kind of just turns the tap off for the week, I'll take probably wins and saves, but then he takes goals against and save percentage, which then it's a toss up for everything else, right?
Yep.
But in terms of my team for last week, at the start of the week, I told myself I'm not gonna chase anything. If it's a short week, is what it is. I think I was -12 for games played. I know part of that's because I had 3 goalies versus him having 2, so I knew the odds were against me to begin with. Then all of a sudden, Landeskog got suspended.
Yeah.
Coleman got suspended in the preseason, so Calgary only had 1 game and he missed it. So I got 0 games out of him. I got 1 period out of Landeskog.
Yeah, kind of got and your star Vasilevsky gets lit up. What are the pretty much at least you didn't waste chasing like you said. So
exactly, and I added I dropped Reeves for Tanev, which I alluded to there earlier. Now the bad thing for me, obviously, and here's the bad news, is that I've lost Kucherov. I took him in the 6th round at the beginning of last year, knowing he was going to be out all year, which whatever, it is what it is. But then now it sounds like he's going to be out at least a quarter of this season, if not a third of the season. I'm sure he's going to be trying to rush back for the Olympics and all that other stuff, if the NHL players go. But it just sucks because he was a guy that I was really hoping on and providing additional stats.
Yeah, and on top of all that, we didn't even mention you had Brady who didn't play. On top of all that, so you were in a whole lot of trouble from the get go, and you still put up a fight. You were tied, I think, going into the very end. So
It was tied up until when Sean purchased the goalie. But to be honest, when I listed off all those things that could have happened,
They all
Pavelski ended up getting a goal at the end of the game with the last couple minutes, which made it a 3-2 nothing game anyways.
Oh, okay. So
It was a meaningless goal, and he won anyway. So it made me feel better knowing that he essentially traded for nothing. He would have won anyways.
Yeah.
Never is what it is. It's one loss.
Going crazy out of the week one. I'm interested how it's going to affect people down there when they get to late when the games actually matter.
Exactly.
And they're out of bullets.
And the thing is that we don't know how rampant and how impactful COVID's going to be.
Yeah.
And there's going to be situations like right now with you. I know I have McKinnon in my other pool, but with you, for example, if you maybe didn't have the greatest of teams and bam, you don't have McKinnon because of COVID for who knows how long,
At least
you're
2
probably
weeks.
going to be trying. You're probably going to be using some ads for back-to-backs or maybe guys who are on first lines or something to try and scrape and claw a little bit for offense, right?
Yep.
So it sucks when stuff like that happens, but you gotta save your ads. I think this year because I think there's going to be some weird stuff.
Yeah, that's part of what I'm trying to build a team right now that I don't need ads. I'm going to pull the Joey for the first half of the season.
That's basically what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I know I've used a little bit more ads than I wanted to, and I know that I added Holtby back, but it's just something about Holtby when I was doing it goes against so many things I say,
yeah,
especially about a new team, whatever. But Dallas is so good defensively, and like I think they're underrated defensively because they were already a good defensive team. They got all their good scoring power back, which helps.
They did take some injuries this week though to defense too.
They did, but they also signed Suter and Hakanpää for cheap, which are both good defensemen. So, like, I think they're a top 6 or top 7 defense in the NHL.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a half-decent goalie in front of that, you're going to give up 3 goals or less on most of your starts. The only thing for me is that I am not a Khudobin fan. I think he should not be there. If he continues to be there, I would give more games to Holtby. Then I would try to also give games to Khudobin to market him so that I could trade him and bring Ottinger up. Then Bishop's also coming back. So, like, there's so many things. But at the same time, the way I'm looking at it right now is if Bishop doesn't come back and he just... I mean, look at Quick. Quick barely can play to a certain level anymore. Look at Corey Schneider. He can't even barely play in the NHL anymore with similar type injuries.
Yep.
So, like... There's a chance that he doesn't play again, or even this season.
That's the way I look at Bishop. I don't even look at him as rosterable.
I have him just because I took him late, and again, I like Dallas. Plus, I think they're good defensively. Holtby's on a 1-year deal. If Holtby ends up going to get bigger deal after a rebound year in Dallas, and they go Bishop Ottinger, that makes sense for Dallas.
I always worry about me doing that. Is that I fall in love with this, and then I get stuck in this sunken cost fallacy. Where I'm just like I've just had it for so long I can't give up now. That's what I worry about.
If I needed an IR spot right now, I would drop him. No problem.
Yeah.
Rask is a different story.
Yeah.
Bishop, no.
Yeah. Rask will be good for your thing.
I hope he also has 2 games this week, including one tomorrow night. I think it is. So I wanted to see, but he's got really good stats. Like
he's looked good so far. Yeah. No, it's been all right.
The coach really likes him, so like that goes a long way. But he's also one of those goalies that can have a shitty game. So like, probably gonna end up dropping him. But he's also I just want to see because I also don't know if I trust Hart.
There is something to be said with there are some teams right now that are really hurting in the goalie department. That if the goalies that they relied on to be something don't turn it around from where they are, they could be in trouble. Yeah. I'm not going to name any names yet. But.
Well, actually, I had a thought today. This is just my own thought. And I wonder if there's a trade to be had between Washington and Anaheim. John Gibson would go to Washington and Samsonov or both of Samsonov and Vanacek would go back to Anaheim.
Now we're just playing theory craft all over again.
No, it was just a thought that came to my brain because I was listening to the radio and they're just saying that I don't remember who was talking, but he was saying that he thought Samsonov would become a sneaky trade candidate because he thinks Vanacek will continue to take the net from him, and he thinks Samsonov's the more talented goalie, but with the he called them antics that he's been going through over the last year and a half. Plus, with everything now with Vanacek taking the net and a bit of the Russian whatever kind of getting a little bit older and some of the newer guys kind of taking over a bit, maybe you trade him for a guy that helps the team for the next 2 years instead of helps the team more the next 5 years. And I was just thinking, would make a lot of sense, a Samsonov for Gibson foundation trade. But yeah, I know we're galaxy braiding, but that it just came across and I was like, when you think of things and you're like, oh, that makes sense. Or you think of things and you're like, nah, there's no way, and you move on. It was just one of those things where I thought about it for a couple minutes because I was like, I think there could be something there.
Yeah, and Stoles does. I don't know. I don't think they need a second goal. I think they want Stoles to eventually do something there too. So interesting. Do you want to talk about these other 2 game or 3 games, or just want to look at this week that we're currently on?
I'll just do a quick touch up on, I guess. The other matchup was Joey versus Nick, which they both used a lot of ads. I think that they're both kind of going at each other because I know that they work together.
Yep.
So I think there was some extra bragging rights there.
Joey reigning champ too, defending champ.
Exactly, trying to reign off with a win, but didn't quite work out for him with a 6-5 loss.
He he lost by 1 shot.
Is that all it was?
Yeah, 1 shot was the difference.
Oh God.
Or
Nick
1 game-winning goal.
Sunday.
Did he? Yeah.
I think he added somebody on the Sunday. He added
Jamie Benn, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, he added Jamie Benn. Yeah, who got 1 shot. Oh no, he added Heiskanen, who had 5 shots on goal.
Yeah.
He texted me that and he said my add on Heiskanen got me the win.
Yeah, so he won by 1 shot. 1 less shot they would have tied. 2 less he would have lost.
And Joey used 5 ads, so if he had used 1 more ad, maybe he could have
snuck someone in the game. Yeah.
Yeah, kept the tie or stole the win.
That could be a lesson for Joey of just how cutthroat these tight games can be. You got to pay attention on Sunday, I guess.
And we continue to see a trend of like the really close matchups. Like, yes, I know me and Sean were 6-3, but for example, we were tied on goals, 4 assists, 3 points difference, 1 game-winning goal difference, 3 shots on goal. So I mean, just a couple little things there is the difference of a tie.
Like switching over now to the Ben Jesse matchup, same story. 1 power play point is the difference.
Yep.
Both and like there's one different win difference in goalie. There's like 2 game-winning goals. That's pretty big, but 2 goals. Like this pool's set up to come down right down to the wire every week. So every week it's exciting. Every once in a while you're gonna blow a guy out, but a lot of the time you're gonna finish 6-5. Because Ben
didn't even have Matthews either.
Yeah, Ben's gonna be a tough opponent this year with his roster.
I think he's one of those teams that is good at weird things. It's going to be hard for teams if they have a bad goalie week or if they have a cold offensive week. I think he can come in and kind of steal weeks if he lines up the right times with those other teams.
So that was a rematch of last year's consolation final. So that was pretty good way to get things started. And then the last game of the week was Dylan versus Jamie.
And this is, I think, the only matchup that wasn't really close on the week.
It wasn't, but it also kind of was. Like, if Jamie had a better performance from Hellebuck, like, Hellebuck got crushed, and if he didn't, it's a lot closer.
1 win between the 2 teams.
Exactly. Like, the goalies categories were crap, and if the goalies went towards Jamie, he would have won 6-5.
That's true. Okay, I take that back.
So it is a lot closer. It looks like the biggest blowout of the week, but I think it was potentially the closest. Like, honestly, if you're asking what the biggest blowout of the week, it probably was me against Steve.
Maybe,
because I slept well after going into Saturday. Like, I thought I had a close. And normally, you know me, I'm like, oh my god. Like, I'm like on the edge of my seat till the very end. But
I think it was a good week, and it's good when you have to really break down the matchups to see who was the better one. Like, it's kind of exactly what I had kind of hoped for. Like, I hate pools where it's like Thursday and you're like,
it's over. Yeah,
I guess this week's over. Like, you get caught sleeping sometimes, or like forget to dress a goalie or something for a shutout.
You're screwed.
Yeah, so like I don't know. I just like
We
having
have
to
we
worry
have
about
yet
it.
to see a shutout this season in the NHL.
Yep, we'll see. Not
First
one.
one might be going to Hart tonight. We'll see.
Hopefully.
All right, let's take a look at this week. Let's start with you then. Well, we're speaking about Carter Hart, you versus Jesse. You're up.
No, let's come back to me. I want to do mine and yours last. Let's go to the other ones first.
Okay, dude.
Let's go Dylan and Ben first.
Dylan and
So
Ben first. Fine.
whoa, don't open up their matchup.
I already did, and
Mm,
it's not looking
mm,
good. Who's his
mm,
goalie? I don't even. Let me scroll down.
mm,
Oh, he is Grubauer, I'm sure.
mm,
Yeah, Grubauer got
mm.
pulled. It might be time to think about an expansion goalie. Might not be the rosterable goalie that you want, but Drieger has made his Kraken debut as of right now, because these games have obviously just started. It's Monday. Games have started. But yeah, Drieger,
Yeah.
he's in a hole. Really, Dylan can just play a safe goalie week now, probably, and be all
Yeah.
right.
Oh, that's tough.
He's
You
still
think
up
he's
7-0.
think he's gonna drop him?
Uh, I would think so. I was a little shocked that he drafted him, to be honest, but I don't
I
know.
had huge buyer beware on him, but
Yeah,
like,
I would too.
I mean,
I watched enough of him last year to have buyer beware. Definitely on a
the
team
tough
like the
thing,
Kraken.
yeah, and the tough thing for me when I'm almost extreme buyer beware is when there's two goalies you have buyer beware because you're almost always certain to pick wrong.
Yeah,
Because A, you might pick the wrong goalie, or B, both might suck. So no matter what, you're screwed.
yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's a scenario here because of the whole expansion, new team, new players playing in front, lack of offense. Uh,
Yeah, so interestingly
tough.
here, Dylan can't do any roster moves until he sorts out the Kane suspension thing because right now he has him on IR. But
Yeah.
he'll have to move him in order to do a roster move because the suspensions come in. Austin Matthews back in action for Ben. He's got
Yep.
5 shots in his first debut out. Looking good.
Yep.
But yeah, it's kind of unfair, but I would have probably picked Beefy to win this matchup either way. I think Beefy's the strongest team in the league.
Think so?
At least on the offensive side. Maybe not goalies.
Yeah.
Goalies might be his weak spot.
Yeah.
But I think he beats Ben in both categories. To be honest, I think he does.
I think in theory, I don't know this. I'm making educated guess. Is that I think the theory is that I'm not going to draft goalies high, but my trade targets will be the goalies that are having good seasons,
Hmm.
and I'm going to pay up for them. I think he doesn't really need to add much on his skater side.
Yeah.
I think whatever trade capital he's going to spend, I think
Well, that's
he's
always
probably the
been
right
somewhat
goalie
a
for a goalie.
normal strategy when it comes to drafting. Is goalies go low because technically they're so close in the long run in terms of save percent and that it's kind of like quarterbacks in football.
Yeah.
You can draft them late because they're so close at the end of the day. You pay up, sometimes draft the best ones early, like Vasilevsky.
Or Hellebuck maybe.
But in this, it's different too in a keeper league because for me, for instance, I'm not one to draft goalies early. But this year I drafted one early with Freddie Anderson. It's because I had what would be considered a top goalie as a late keeper with Shesterkin, and then I
Yeah.
added a second. And to me, that having two solid goalies in this pool put me apart from basically you're the only other guy that has two really solid goalies.
I think that you have to, in order to succeed in any pool, you need to have one goalie that's a top 10 goalie, preferably top 6 or 7,
Hmm.
that gets a lot of starts. And whether that guy is a guy that you find during this season because of injury or trades or comes out of nowhere or something like that. Sorry, a bug flew in my face there. Yeah, I don't know.
It's
Like
almost good to have a spot to be able to find those because as we saw at the beginning of this season, we kind of should have done a show right before it, but there was 5, 6 goalies that were rosterable in my books, and that's why I jumped on Merslankins. I'm like, this guy's rosterable, very much so. Then there's Jari, who I thought about going, but then I dipped away because he was scary. But again, he's looked good last week, and he looked good last year. Helped Joey win.
Until he didn't.
Helped Joey win the pool.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know. I know.
But yeah.
All right, let's jump into
Let's go to
Joey.
Jamie and Joey.
Yeah, Joey, Jamie. So Joey, reigning champ, rematch of the finals last year, actually.
Mhm.
So
Tough call.
it is a tough call, and for me, it's gonna come down to the goalies, and I'm leaning a little bit here with Joey. I like Joey's goalies in this matchup. I like Joey's team. I'm
I
giving him
haven't
the edge.
I haven't looked at the goalie opponent and schedule to make a really good educated call. I actually like Jamie's goalies better. And with Hellebuck having a bad week, let's see how many games does he have. We got Hellebuck and Allen, Mini, Anaheim, Nashville, some lower scoring teams.
Could be.
Yeah, he might
It
have
could
a
be.
good week.
This
Maybe a
could be.
shutout in
This
there.
could be really close. This could be close.
I think it's going to come down to game-winning goals and power play points, and I think that Joey has a better chance at getting those. So I'm going to have to agree. I think it's going to be Joey.
All right.
Okay, let's go to yours or mine.
Steve and Nick.
Steve and Nick. I jumped that one.
Yeah. So we got Steve versus Nick. This again, game started, but we're early. Not gonna read too much into it. I'm interested to see how Steve handles the situation. I feel like he should have already addressed the Pacioretty issue because he's Pacioretty out and his IR is full. He's got to figure. He slept today. He didn't make any moves. Maybe he's kind of hung over from last week. He still has 4 goalies. So unless something happens there, I'm gonna have to lean Nick to win this one. Otherwise, if he does make the right moves in time, I would tend to lean Steve. But
there's a new update on Hoffman right now, and it says he's available to play.
Okay, so that's just gonna be a rotation then. So Patch is in, Hoffman in. I'm not super sold that Hoffman's gonna make a huge difference, but I
was saying this to Dylan the other day, and I don't think that there's very many Montreal Canadiens that are worth rostering because there's 8 guys that I listed off to him that, I mean, Gallagher's on the 3rd line. Josh
they're
Anderson's
like
on
Philadelphia
the 2nd line.
that way.
Yeah, there's so many guys that like if you get lucky and end up getting the guy that has the good season, great. But like there's probably going to be 1 or 2 guys that have really good seasons. The rest will just be like
Yeah, and I honestly believe that if I had to repick my picks, I would probably pick the Habs to finish last in that division.
Yeah. See, I mean,
I know this is early and they've like they just something seems off, and without Price, I'm a little worried what's going on.
Price and Weber, they're 2 leaders, right? They're 2 backbones for so long are not there right now, so I think they're a little confused. But yeah, so who are you taking, Nick or Steve?
I'm gonna take Nick. I just think he's gonna manage this one better.
Yeah, I mean, Steve's gonna go hard at Nick, and he'll probably go through another 7 ads this week, and Nick will probably blow through more ads. So I think that's gonna be the matchup to watch. I think they're gonna.
That's a win-win for everybody if they blow a lot of ads.
Exactly. Or they could both do none and just.
That's what I like that I pulled the win off Steve because I knew he would go hard at me. And to come out, I'm really happy.
Steve is not a guy that doesn't try. That's for sure. He definitely tries any and every possible method.
Love it. Love it. All right, let's take a look at mine.
Okay.
So it's me versus Sean. So I got your opponent from last week. He's out to a pretty monster lead in the offensive shots already, but he has a couple. He has a lot of guys going. But yeah, this is gonna come down to. I'm gonna. I don't know why last year I picked myself to win every week, and then this year I picked myself to lose last week for. I just thought there was no chance I could win. But I like how my team is set up right now. To put in a kind of performance that's pretty solid week in and week out without doing too much maneuvering. So I'm gonna give myself the win. I think I can out hit him. I don't know. He might take shots from me, but I think I'm gonna beat him in the net pretty handily.
That's what I thought before the week, and then not so much.
Yeah, I'm off to a good start. Shesterkin's looking a little beauty right now so far. But if I can get a lead there, what do you need? You need to steal like 1 more category from there, maybe 2. I think I can do it. I think I can take one of the points categories, goals or assists, one or the other. I do. I think it'll be tight, but I think I got this one.
Yeah, it's gonna be close, and I feel like Sean's one of those teams where like, I think he's one of the. I say this. His team has the highest chance to have boom nights, for one of them.
Yep.
Because he's got a bunch of guys in key spots. Like it's only a matter of time till his guys like pop off here and there.
Yep.
That being said, if you catch them on a week where they're a bit cold, I feel like he's a team that doesn't bring a lot of uniqueness to it. But sometimes you don't need that. So we'll see.
If he gets the Bobrovsky we saw last week all season, he's going to be a top team. No question about it.
5-6 team, yeah, for sure. Like that's like basically my bar. Are you a playoff team? Like I look at who are the. I don't. It's hard right now to tell who the top teams are, especially because there's a few that are kind of really close. But right now I'm looking more who are the bottom four. Like who are the teams projected to miss?
Yeah.
And I think I got 3 teams ready that I think are going to be hard to make the playoffs. I'll just say them now. I think it's Ben, Jesse, and Jamie. I think those
would be my 3 too.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have a hard time making the playoffs. But who knows after injuries and stuff like that. I mean, I'm a big injury away from a goalie from becoming.
That's the thing though too. Like
team.
almost, there's a couple teams too that are a big injury away from being in a lot of trouble.
Like I'm like an injury away from like Landeskog or Drysdale or Vasilevsky away from maybe selling. Like,
yep.
I'd be so cheesed.
You would be. I do not want to deal with the Torrey that has to sell this year.
Oh man, like because I mean, in a good way, it would be good because I'd probably be the only team building in that sense.
Yeah.
So I could kind of capitalize on a niche, especially if like Dylan and Nick are prepared to fucking go balls to the walls. We'll see.
Yeah, right now I agree with your bottom 3, and then I see there's like another tier. I put Nick and Steve in the next tier up, and then the rest of the teams.
Really, you don't have Nick as a high team, eh?
No, I think he's very weak in net, and I think I don't know. He kind of built his team in a way like you did last year, in a way to kind of just make the playoffs and then flutter out. I kind of see that kind of, and maybe I'm wrong, but that's my take on it. He can only know that if he watches this far into the podcast. All right, and then he can come at me. All right, let's move on to your matchup.
All right, let's wrap this up with mine. So, I actually thought I was going to lose this week to start, just because I didn't have a good feeling just about a few different things. Mostly, like I said, my kryptonite's kind of when a guy has starts that are good, and then he punts on the wins maybe and saves. Or if I get a really bad start, then you can just use all your ads on goalies, and as long as you don't get crushed, you'll probably beat me in that, and then you can backdoor your way into beating me. But we'll see. We'll see what Swayman does. We'll see what Campbell continues to do because he's going to get all the starts. What's his other goalie? Knight. We'll see if Knight.
Yeah, between Knight and Swayman, they're both kind of split at best, in my opinion. Like they're not going to.
He's playing Tampa tomorrow.
Knight is playing Tampa tomorrow. It's not a great first team, but again, it's not the same Tampa that we're used to. But Swayman, I kind of put him in the same boat. Like he's going to be splitting the net with Ullmark, I would assume. He's not going to take the majority of the starts, but maybe I'm wrong in that. I don't know much about Swayman myself.
If he puts up a 38 save, 1 goal against, even lost for that matter, that he gets the save percentage goals against, and then he can pound his ads on offense.
Yep.
Makes the right ads. He's got Ovi. He's got some good shooters. He can compete with me in terms of shots on goal. I'm surprised he didn't bulk up a bit to try and take me on with hits. But maybe he's just punting that this year and hoping for the offense. But we'll see. Hart's putting up a good game so far. He did give up the 1 goal. I'm intrigued to see how Markstrom does against Anaheim tonight. I have high hopes for Markstrom.
Yeah.
So maybe my goalies click in this week, and if my goalies all click in, I am going to be. If all my goalies click in and I don't get hurt in net, I feel like I'm so far ahead of everybody. I can't be captured in terms of goalie stats unless
I think my goalies can match you. I can battle you in goalie.
You think so?
I think so. Yeah.
You have Merzlikins. Okay, maybe because he should.
I think Merzlikins is a very solid third goalie.
Saves and stats, yes. Wins, no.
Yeah, wins, no.
I don't think.
But I think the same thing with Markstrom. I don't think he's a big win guy either.
Okay, fair. That's fair.
But yeah, of course you have the Vasilevsky shutout factor, which is that's always going to be it. So You do have the
Tampa
edge.
looks a little weird right now in injuries, so like we'll see if they continue.
Not
to
the same
be
Tampa as
elite.
they're not over the cap Tampa anymore.
No, exactly. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens. I don't want to go into. I'm trying not to use very many ads, so I'm hoping for some good goalie starts, and then I'm just gonna kind of coast and hope the offense kind of continues to carry me.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun season. Fantasy hockey, I don't know, I love it. I get way too into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm gonna head out now.
All right, sounds good, man. Take care.
Take care. See ya.